Beers with Chad.
Hey everybody, what's up? Chad Wesley Smith here. Another episode, Beers with Chad. Coming off a big sports weekend. Everyone talking UFC 229. Before we get into that, cheers. I've got a fresh Imperial IPA from Hubbard's Cave Brewing based out of Illinois, brought to me as always by the wonderful folks at Tavour. Download the Tavour app right to your phone. A couple clicks, beers are coming right to your door. You get to try stuff from all over the country, all over the world, stuff that you can't find in your local store. So it's fun. It's like better than Christmas every month. Some guy just shows up at your door, brings you a bunch of beers. How could it be better than that? So before we get into the UFC and the NFL from this past weekend, I also got the chance to watch Quintet 3, which is a team jiu-jitsu competition. If you have UFC Fight Pass, you can go check it out on there. I'm sure you can find highlights and stuff all around Instagram and YouTube as well. And the way it's set up is 4 teams of 5 jiu-jitsu athletes, and there's a certain weight limit combined for the team, like 900 pounds or something like that. So you can pick whatever 5 people you want as long as they weigh under 900 pounds. And we had Alpha Male, Team Sakuraba, Polaris, and 10th Planet. And it's submission only. So let's say you don't know the order of your team, or I don't know the order of your team, you don't know the order of mine. We just choose to put the 5 out in any order. So you could put your smallest guy out first against my biggest guy, and if they go to a draw, they're both out. So it's gotta be submission, 4-minute time limit if there's a 20 kilo or more discrepancy between the 2 athletes. Otherwise it's an 8-minute time limit. It was really cool to watch. Incredibly impressive performance by Gordon Ryan, who basically carried Team Alpha Male to the championship. I do have to agree with my jiu-jitsu coach, Brent Littell, in his assessment of why the fuck is Gordon Ryan competing for Team Alpha Male when he has really nothing to do with them. So, that's kind of, it would be cooler to see real teams, people who really train together under the same coach, put together a team and go out there and compete. Donahire Death Squad team is Nicky Ryan that fought in like a exhibition fight there at Quintet, not part of the tournament, but he was incredibly impressive. 17 years old, just ripped through a Japanese dude who had like 50 professional MMA fights, and for a kid who's just kind of a regular looking kid, like you could go to any high school in America and find someone who's probably as physically gifted, if not more than he is, but Donahire has trained him up pretty incredibly, and then to have things like Gordon Ryan versus Gregor Gracie, people who are actually teammates competing against each other, it would be more fun to see like Gracie Baja Northridge, Homalu, Edwin Najimi, Gabriel Largas, Felipe Pena, maybe Orlando Sanchez team in there against Donahire Death Squad, against 10th Planet, against Atos type of thing. But either way, really cool event. I always appreciate people in any sport, powerlifting, jiu-jitsu, whatever, who are creative in trying to find new ways to get people interested in their sport, and Quintet did that. Also got to watch some rugby, All Blacks versus Springboks, New Zealand versus South Africa. If you have ESPN Plus, fantastic for watching rugby. And I was doing that because I've actually played a little bit of rugby last week, touch rugby, but in the possible preparation for maybe playing some club rugby with the Back Bay Rugby Club out here, I got sort of inspired towards that after last year when Marissa and I were in Ireland. We were given tickets to Ireland versus Fiji, and I was seeing these big dudes out, for Fiji, 6'3", 280, could run and cut and great endurance and all this stuff. And I was like, I used to be able to run and cut and had good endurance 10 years ago. Maybe I could do that again. So between that and talking to Jack Clark and Tom Billups of Cal Rugby and doing Jug Life episodes with them. I'm kind of fired up on rugby these days, so we'll see where that goes. But that was all. Those were all an appetizer to UFC 229, the most anticipated, biggest night in UFC history, many would say. So I was not great in my picks. I picked Watterson, St. Preux, Volkov, Pettis, and Khabib. So I bookended the night with wins for Michelle Watterson and Khabib, but in between wasn't great. St. Preux, kind of a weird ending to that one. Did he get knocked out at the end? But then it went to decision. He lost either way. Now, Derek Lewis Volkov. Volkov was kicking Derek Lewis's ass for 14 minutes and 30 seconds. 14 minutes and 35 seconds. Derek Lewis looked like he was gassed in the first round. Volkov was, so tall and keeping him away and beating him up on the ground and really just beating him in every way possible. And then Derek Lewis just dropped him. With 15 seconds left, Volkov kind of didn't create enough space with this kick, and Derek Lewis came in and haymaker and just put him on his ass. So yeah, much more exciting fight for Derek Lewis there than his last one against Francis Ngannou. Though I don't know how much credibility it earns him in the eyes of Dana White and the other matchmakers there at the UFC in terms of getting him a title shot or where he's going to stand there. And it was crazy to hear him after the fight in the post-fight interview with Bisping and Tyron Woodley saying that he trains 30 minutes to an hour. So hopefully he can increase that to maybe 45 minutes to an hour and 15 and improve that cardio because he's clearly a talented guy. Ferguson Pettis. My choosing Pettis there was really just going off the idea that this is very, very fast for Tony Ferguson to be coming back from such a significant knee injury. I didn't expect that he would be at 100%, and early in the fight it looked like maybe he was limping a little bit. He was catching those leg kicks from Pettis, and it's like, okay, is his knee not right? Well, it turned out to be good enough, definitely, and he looked very good there. Just kind of a tough, shitty situation for Tony Ferguson to have lost his title without ever losing. So, we'll see what happens with him if he gets a fight with Khabib or what's happening with Khabib. A lot is up in the air because of that main event. Everyone's seen what happened. You've seen it a million times. People have talked about it. So my quick take on it, I don't need to recap the events of everything for you, the events of the night. Khabib dominated. Some people, I think that that McGregor maybe won the third round, which would have been the first round that Khabib had ever lost. But, the first round, he gets the takedown, he just holds him down, kind of boring round. But beyond that, Khabib dominated. McGregor should have been penalized for holding the gloves, for holding the fence with both his hands and his feet. They didn't do that. I don't know how Herb Dean was missing those or why he wasn't calling them, but that was frustrating as it was going. And then, Khabib just showed himself to be a more prepared, more well-rounded fighter. Everyone knew that he was a better wrestler. He showed that. He got him down, held him down, advanced position, ground and pound, finished with a submission. He caught him with that great shot when they were standing. As a fan, as someone who wanted Khabib to win, when they're standing, I feel myself holding my breath a little bit. Like, if they're standing up, McGregor's got a chance. But he never really hurt him too much standing. So, impressive performance there. Now the aftermath of it. McGregor had it coming. People are applying such a double standard to this situation. Is it different for it to happen at the fight, in the arena? Okay, I can get on board with that. But I don't think that it was a premeditated thing from Khabib. I think he won the fight, that there's a ton of emotion and adrenaline going there, that Dylan Dennis, who I've never met, I don't know much about, but all the jiu-jitsu people I know seem to have a unanimous opinion that he's a prick. I'm sure that he said something to him and Khabib was caught up in that moment. That's much different than premeditating flying from another country to essentially ambush Khabib's camp in New York with the whole Dolly and the bus incident and everything, to injure people who had nothing to do with these events, to keep them out of doing their job, to cost them money. McGregor had it coming from that. He had it coming from that he goes, that talking shit and psychological warfare, mind games leading into a fight. I know that that's part of it. I know that that's part of selling it. But if you talk about, a man's family, you talk about his dad and his religion, and talk about his friends' kids and everything, like, he had it coming. And Khabib is from one of the hardest places maybe in the entire world, maybe the hardest place in the entire world, Dagestan. That is a place that knows war and wrestling. And that's all they know, is war and wrestling. Those are two very challenging things. And, Khabib is not, he's not going to go for all the shit talking. He's not going to be the guy that sells the fight with his personality. He's just a fighter. He's been extremely respectful to everyone else. He was not to McGregor, and I think McGregor earned that. Now, should he have jumped over and done all that stuff? No. He beat him. He did the most significant thing that he could have. He beat him. He choked him out. He dominated him. He took McGregor's heart there, and now he's giving this opening for McGregor to be viewed as a victim, especially by Dana White, because Dana White's outrage in this seems so contrived to me, that he's disgusted by this and looked like he's about on the verge of tears in some of those post-fight press conferences and interviews. And if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was McGregor, jumping over the cage like he did and attacked Jose Aldo, like McGregor and his whole group did, and at a Bellator event in Ireland several months ago, and disrupted everything, people would be like, "Oh, that's just fucking awesome! He's so badass that he did this. You can't talk shit to McGregor, all this stuff." But now when it happens to their golden boy, it's all different. So, there's talk of stripping Khabib of the title, which I think it seems like they would only do if he's going to be suspended for such a long time by the athletic commissions that he can't defend the title. Then they're gonna strip it. We'll see if that happens. That goes to a larger issue, I think, of the UFC being way too liberal with stripping titles, with interim titles, that when you get a situation like Tony Ferguson, a guy who's the champion and then doesn't lose and now he's not the champion anymore, how can that happen? That where it's sort of unclear in some of the classes who even is the champion. So, that's kind of a different issue. They're talking about, though if it's just the UFC who decides to strip him as a disciplinary action, it's fucking bullshit. If the UFC decides to suspend him outside of what the commissions, the commissions are going to do what the commissions do. If the UFC does that, total bullshit. What Conor did was as bad or worse. It was premeditated. It was using that dolly as a weapon. It injured people who had nothing to do with the situation. So I would be very, very frustrated with the UFC if they decide to strip Khabib of his title, just for those actions. If they do it because he's going to be suspended for a year or something by these commissions, and I have no idea how long that may be, then I can understand it, that the show must go on, but he better get a shot when he gets off that suspension right away. As far as him not getting paid, the commission right now is withholding his purse, a couple $1 million. Of course, it's a couple $1 million, and everyone wants that. But I think a lot of Khabib's support system, he's talking about talking to Putin on the phone after the fight. Khabib's not going to be hurting for money. You know, the way that sport is viewed in Russia, a sportsman like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he is not going to be hurting for money. Either Putin will take care of him, some other oligarchs are going to take care of him. He's got plenty of support there, so does he want the $2 million? Of course. If they never pay it to him, I'm not too worried about him. But it was an exciting night. Yeah, I think people are getting a little bit too much up in their feelings. These are fighters, and they fought. Was it the best scene? No, but it was exciting. Me and my friends were here watching it, and we all enjoyed it, and none of us were aghast at their their barbaric actions or anything like that. So I think Dana White and the other brass at the UFC can settle it down with all that nonsense. Moving on to the NFL. Week 5, Chiefs and Rams continue to separate themselves from the rest of the league, but Rams injuries are piling up. Talib was already out. Marcus Peters seems to not be 100%. Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks out with concussions. The hit on Brandon Cooks, as I watched it, I didn't understand how that was not an ejection, how that's not the helmet-to-helmet rule. If that's not it, I'm not quite sure what is, but no one else seems to share that sentiment with me, so maybe I don't know what I'm looking at. Those are those are very significant injuries, as well as Greg Zuerlein, the kicker, who's excellent, though their backup kicker acquitted himself very well yesterday against the Seahawks. The defense showed plenty of vulnerability. Their run defense is not nearly as good as you would expect it to be, and Ndamukong Suh is not playing like Ndamukong Suh. When he gets pancaked into the end zone on that touchdown run by Davis, you just don't expect to see that. This week for the Rams at the Broncos, that's not going to be an easy game, especially because they're going to be almost undoubtedly without Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods is great. He's been playing great. Todd Gurley is incredible. We'll see how Josh Reynolds steps up. We'll see, if anyone can figure out how to be creative and cover up those losses. It's Sean McVay. Jared Goff is doing his thing, but that's going to be a tough game. Broncos got a lot of defensive talent, and to try and attack that defensive talent with backups is going to be tough. The AFC, wide open. There are only 2 teams in the AFC, the Raiders and Broncos, who are more than 2 games back, more than 2 games out of first place. And they're sitting there with 1 and 2 wins in the division with the Chiefs at 5 wins. Every other conference, it's 2 games or less from first to last. So a lot of things still to be decided in the AFC. Yes, I think that the Chiefs are the best team. We're going to see a great test this week, though, against the Patriots. The winner of that game, undoubtedly, driver's seat in the AFC. I do think that the team speed of the Chiefs' offense is going to be overwhelming to what's a pretty slow Patriots defense. So we'll see how that goes. But the Patriots are looking much better. Their offense, with Julian Edelman back, that's a huge help to them. It allows Chris Hogan to play more in his natural position, take a little bit of heat off of Gronk, so he can get involved more. And Josh Gordon, though he's not setting the world on fire, he's still there. He caught a touchdown. He's in the mix. He's only going to be more helpful. He's kind of made it through this probationary period with them. He's into his 3rd week with the team. I see him only being better and better utilized as they go. Are the Steelers on track now? They kicked the Falcons' ass, or is Atlanta just that decimated by injury defensively, missing both safeties, linebacker? I think Grady Jarrett was out. Really, really tough situation for the Falcons, what they're dealing with injury-wise. But the Steelers looked like, their offense looked like how the Steelers' offense should look. And with the Ravens losing, the Browns won, but it's the Browns. the Bengals seem to be the class of that division right now, but do you really trust the Bengals, with 12 weeks of football still to go? So we'll see in that NFC North, or AFC North. Now, my AFC Super Bowl pick, the Texans, I don't think that they're going to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, but they could be 2 weeks from now playing for first place in that division when they take on the Jaguars. They just beat the Cowboys in an ugly game, though they have some flashes. DeAndre Hopkins, amazing play to get them down into field goal range there at the end. They've got the Bills coming up this week, so they should be riding a 3-game winning streak going into that Week 7 game against the Jaguars. As I said last week, the Titans, who are still in first place or tied for first place with the Jaguars in that division, are a team who are playing above their head. The Titans have the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Patriots as 3 of their next 4 games. They're going to lose at least 2 of those games, if not all 3 of them, and come back to earth. I think the Jaguars are going to be the class of that division, but the Texans have talented players. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, the Honey Badger, great wide receivers. We've seen Deshaun Watson play well before. Let's see if he can get it going. He had some moments last night, but also too careless with the football a lot of times. So we'll see. But as we look at this AFC playoff picture, I think everyone can agree Chiefs, Patriots, they're in there for sure. AFC North, is it the Bengals? Is it the Ravens? Is it the Steelers? Is it the Browns? Case can be made for all 4 of those teams, either winning the division or getting into the wild card mix. In the AFC South, I think smart money is on the Jaguars, but the Texans could get up into one of those wild card spots. And then I think in the West, of course, the Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chargers' only 2 losses are to the 2 best teams in the NFL. The Chargers are going to get one of those wild card spots, undoubtedly. So it's going to be a fight between Titans, Texans, whoever's second, third, and fourth maybe in the AFC North for that remaining wild card spot. So it'll be interesting to see in a wide open AFC. This was Beers with Chad. If you want beer delivered right to your door, a couple clicks from your phone, go to the link in the info and check out the Tavour app. Get Tavour, get beers delivered right to your door. Better than Christmas. This is Hubbard's Cave Imperial IPA, 8.5%. Probably a bit much for me at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, but that's when I had time to film today. So cheers to all you fine folks out there. Ask me questions in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.